A cafe conversation. It's a cafe conversation in the ladies' room. 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 A cafe conversation in the ladies' room.
Hello, and welcome back to Cafe Conversations with Bella Reese and Juicy. What's up, Juicy? How was your day?
Eventful, as
Oh.
usual.
Oh,
I had a lot to do.
you want to share
Uh, yeah.
briefly?
Well,
30 seconds.
I went to buy food for our Everybody Eats project and had a heck of a time in the store.
Was that fun?
Yeah, no. The man behind me was like, "Oh boy, my ice cream's gonna melt." I was like, "I'm sorry, sorry,
Another line.
I'm sorry."
But this is why everyone has to take their time and they have to wait. My day was pretty. It was active.
Active,
It was active.
okay. And
Moving
you,
boxes, unpacking food. But I took it easy.
injury,
That's
yeah,
all,
yeah.
It was like
Well, I know you weren't lifting.
Pampers.
I know you weren't lifting.
No
anything.
lifting.
No.
No lifting.
Pushing. No.
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 No. No.
Delegating.
You know.
A little delegating.
There you go.
Yeah. That's you. You do that
Sipping
good.
A little iced tea in
Yes.
between, and I like that. But
Bishop, you all right?
I'm fine.
You good?
I understand delegation
How was-
very well.
How was your day today, Bishop?
It was quite busy, but
Got it all
par for the
done?
course, and had an opportunity to meet a wonderful young lady who is the assistant vice president of NBT Bank, who happens to be a sister. Her name is Marie.
Oh, good.
Really good sister, really good experience. So, shout out Marie.
Hey, Marie.
Does she have any funds to bring
Well,
with
she's
her?
really. I guess it is part of the conversation, but she was really encouraging African American churches, Hispanic American churches, as well as small businesses to opt in for the PPE that is coming out, particularly earmarked this time around for small churches, for churches and small businesses. Because the last time around, the big conglomerates ate up all of the money, and there was none left for those who were most in need. So she's very active, even in reaching out to the community, although there may not be actual clients of MBT. She's still reaching out to the community and encouraging folks. So I thought it was really a good day
that's
for
nice.
that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Awesome. And I'm glad you kind of brought that out. We're going to come back to that in just a few minutes. But tonight's topic is along the lines of, community service projects and the churches getting involved in the community and, so
Primarily
we're gonna,
black churches.
Um,
I'm not.
well, we gonna get
Downplaying
there.
that,
We're
but-
gonna get there.
All right.
We're gonna get there and everything. But that's gonna be very relevant to what we're about to talk about. But I want to get the introductions along the way so that everybody knows who's in the house. First and foremost, hello.
Wait. We need to know how Vincent's day was. Sorry. Vincent.
I was getting there.
Well,
How was your day, Mr. Ford?
Hey, business as usual. The move has taken over my life, number one. Number two, my basketball team won its 8th game, so
All right, sir.
that's nice.
Good
I'm-
coach.
Congratulations.
I am
right.
now 8-1, and I have one more game Saturday.
Nice.
And the one game that we did lose, we avenged the next time we played them.
All right.
So, hey, it's been fun.
It's been a good day.
It's
That's
been a good
okay.
day.
Champions.
What team? What team? So
Pocono Mountain East
Say it like
in
you're proud.
Swiftwater.
Nice.
Oh,
nice.
All right.
Nice. That's okay. We got a championship coming on. I feel a party.
I feel a championship party coming
I
on
feel
too.
a party going on.
You
All
did
right.
Super Bowl,
Alright.
now basketball.
Well, since we've gone around the table,
Thank
we got one last person to ask how his day was. Pastor Theodore, how was your day?
I had an awesome day. Awesome day. Just spent my day reading.
Okay.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
You gained some knowledge. Okay.
You know,
Yes, trying to retain my
not
knowledge that
too
I.
much going on.
Yes.
You know, not too hyper. Well, for those of you who know us and have been to the cafe with us, hey, welcome back. We're happy to see you. We hope you had a good week. You know, for all our ladies in the Metamorphosis Healthy Initiative, I hope you had a good week. I hope you didn't have a stressful week, you know, with your health endeavors. I know I had a moment or two,
Or three.
you know.
Or three.
Okay, well, just because my friends know about my moments, okay, you know, this is the only thing about checks and balances and letting people know what you're doing because they make sure to keep you in line and pull your
Accountability,
coattail.
girl.
Exactly, but no, I'm thankful for all of you because actually I got my coattail pulled a couple of times this week.
Good.
You know,
I didn't.
that's
They,
only
they
'cause
just
we didn't. That's
they
only
just
'cause we
they
didn't
just
know.
let
Okay?
me do all the stuff I wasn't supposed to do and was shaking their head like, look at you.
Well.
So it's encouragement.
Yeah.
Right, you
Yeah.
know. But for those of you who stayed on track today, congratulations. We are so proud of you. Continue the good work, okay?
It
You're
will
doing
pay
a
off.
great job. And Samantha and I, we're going to see you, okay?
Yes.
We're going to see you.
Yes.
Because I got a 5-minute dance break coming up.
All right. Let's
Okay,
go. I
that's
got
what
you.
I'm talking about.
Right
All
with you.
right, but in the meantime, I'd like to introduce our guests. For those of you who don't know, to my right, my far right, we have Bishop Robert Williams of Soul to the Earth Ministries. Welcome, Bishop.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and of course, you all know Juicy. And I am Bella Reese, and to my left we have Mr. Vincent Ford, community advocate. Welcome, Mr.
Thank you
Ford.
very much. I don't know if I can keep
And
up with this group.
Yes.
virtually all the way from Riverside, New Jersey. Is that correct?
Yes.
We have Pastor Theodore O. King III from the First Baptist Church of Riverside, New Jersey. Welcome, Theodore. So happy to see you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So today we got a good conversation. I mean, it's something I kind of been waiting 2 weeks for us to talk about, you know, because every so often you'll get someone that says, or you'll be in a conversation with someone and we're talking about the pandemic. And this is how the topic came up for me. There was a conversation that was taking place about the pandemic, and one of the questions that was asked was, so where are the churches during the pandemic? What are the churches doing, you know? So I thought it would be a great idea for us to talk about the church and the Black community. But in specific, tonight's topic is our faith is our foundation, okay? And we want to discuss the significance of the church in the progression of Black and brown communities, okay? And I personally thought that for us to discuss that was important simply because many of us rely on our faith to give us the strength to go through whatever it is we're going through in our communities, you know, and for our Black and brown communities, last year, years before, but last year was one that we'd all like to just rip the page out the book, throw it out the window, and act like it never happened. But unfortunately, we cannot turn a blind eye and act as if it did. So I'd like to start with just opening up with a question, okay, and a little bit of history. And I want to propose it to you first, Bishop, okay? And if you could just talk to us a little bit about how the Black church, or how the church has been significant in the Black community thus far with all of these social issues that we've had in the past.
Okay.
That was a mouthful, wasn't it? I'm so sorry.
Just a little levity. Asking the preacher to be brief is.
Right.
You saying something now? Yeah.
I mean, I guess from the inception of Africans being here in America. And just as an aside, Henry Louis Gates did a wonderful presentation
PBS.
over a period of 2 days, the history of the Black Church, and I think it really speaks volumes to it. But in an encapsulated form, the church has always been a part of the African community. The idea for me of a Black church is a man-made construct, but it was made out of necessity because Africans were not allowed to worship with their Caucasian peers, or they weren't really peers, masters at that time. But even moving forward into the 1800s, you have churches like the Abyssinian Church that was not allowed to worship with their Caucasian partners, and so they pulled out and created their own. Same thing with the African Methodist, Episcopalian Church. Not allowed, had all of the credentials, had all of the education that was necessary to be considered a equal, at least in the pulpit. They were not allowed, so they pulled out and started, the largest African American denomination called the largest African American. Oh, okay. I guess I got one amen. And so the Black church then, as they began to focus primarily on the community to which they were tasked to serve, they became almost the everything, because it was a place of education, it was a place of community, it was a place of worship, it was a place of social action, it was a place of economic growth. So over the period of time, even up until now, we see those same patterns being displayed in our communities. I don't think that it has changed or diminished. I don't know that the church itself gets enough credit for what it does in the community, and probably most don't look for the credit because that's not why it's being done.
Right.
But one of the things I think, and I love about quote unquote the African American church, is it's only African American in name, but it does not stop itself from lending assistance to any race, creed, color.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what makes us a very unique entity in this present day and time.
And I thought it was important for you to relay that message, and that's why I invited you here today, because I know Sodom plays a big part in our, immediate community, our community here. And part of what we do, you have supported us quite a bit, with Everybody Eats and everything. And I see not even just with Everybody Eats, but like some of your other programming at your church and everything. You're getting the young people involved, you're getting the community involved. You have programming to help out those that are transitioning from homelessness to home, and you're working on some other future projects. And I thought it was important to allow people to hear from, for lack of a better term, the horse's mouth, what the church is doing, and what your view was, and not that you're just taking a stance of, well, it's not my problem, because some people feel as if the church is going, well, it's not my problem, I just have to worry about worship on Sunday,
Right.
and saving their souls, but Monday through Saturday, it's not my problem. So I thought giving you the opportunity to come and talk about that was important. Pastor.
I want to piggyback off of what you just said,
Okay.
because I think pastors, depending on the pastor, for me, I say, if you as a pastor don't invest in your community, your church is your community. And my biggest thing is, as a pastor, I am one, first of all, not only am I a pastor at the church of First Baptist, but I'm also the police chaplain for the whole city of Riverside.
All right, sir.
Okay.
So not only do I just pastor my congregants who are members by pledging their membership, but I'm also owe a duty to my community to minister when there's times of hurt, suicide, and all those different things. So as a pastor, if you're in a city, you're not only just pastoring just the congregant, but you pastor the neighborhood that you're in.
That's correct.
Because because the Bible says you ought to be a light, a beacon, a light upon the hill. And what happens is, as a pastor, is when you're just saying, I'm a pastor over these group of people, but as a pastor, your job is to pastor the whole area, and not only just preaching, not only just teaching, but also your character. And what I mean by that is, you said something, Charece, is where I've noticed that when you said something, my job is not only to feed them the word, but also to feed them in the community. Like I opened up my church now to start feeding folks in March. Because guess what? Because now our numbers are down, but not only I got to feed you word, but I got to feed you physically. And not only do I got to feed you physically, but now also, what can I talk to you out of whatever depression you're going into and the situation that you're dealing with. And I've noticed one thing that pastors don't do, and I've learned it from the pastors of old. You got to invest into something to get a great withdrawal.
That's right.
If you're looking to get a withdrawal where you have not put no investment in, you're gonna be beating your head up. But so for me, I deposit information into the community. What can First Baptist Church do for you as a place? And my thing is feed. People are looking hungry. If you can meet the need, they will come and they'll take a seat in your congregation. It's plain and simple. It's like that. I have met families, went into houses where a 17-year-old was hung himself in the closet. The father went berserk. How do you minister to that person? And sometimes you don't have to say nothing, but just your presence can create a whole different atmosphere. And they say, you were there for me. You didn't have to say nothing, but just your presence being there. And that's what when y'all go out to feed and when y'all do whatever y'all do as people and where you live at, I can guarantee you, your presence of saying, I love you so much, I just want to bring you just a plate of something. Or if I want to just bring you a box full of something, just that being there is a ministry alone. And that's how you pastor those people. I'm going to shut my mouth. I yield back my time.
No, you're good. You're good. So let me ask you this, and I'm putting this out on the table. Do you feel that the church has an obligation to get involved? And I mean involved in everything. I know the Black church has been instrumental in our civil rights movements since I wasn't even born when they happened, to be quite honest. I wasn't even born. So a lot of the education I'm getting now about what happened in 1965, 66, 67, 68,
Prior to.
Right, and prior to is new to me. It's an education that I'm getting. Hey, I always say I'm a work in progress. Okay,
We
I
all.
always say I'm a work in
Definitely.
progress. But we have so much history sitting right here at the table. So I'd like for the two of you to share some of your history and your experience, and no insult, okay? Because no insult at all. And
I find that to be a little shady, but
Vince, I
I'm
think she's
not
calling
going
us
to
old.
say,
not shady.
That's okay.
just because you're the baby of the bunch,
Oh,
I think that
Yes, and
you put this
It's-
out there.
I'm gonna tell you why it's not shady, okay? Because
I'm joking.
there are things that I just really don't know.
Don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Right.
Me either.
And if I have someone who can give me firsthand accounts of what your personal experience was, I'm not sure if you were pastoring at that time when things happened, but you might have just been there to go through it. I know for a fact from conversations you and I had, you went through certain situations. You spoke with Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? The history that actually sits at this table is overwhelming to me because it's been nothing more than Black history lessons. What, maybe 2 or 3 times in a February.
Right.
Well, my,
You know what I'm
my
saying?
small connection is the fact that I have family in Mississippi, and Mississippi was a big civil rights area and big injustice and so on and so forth. So I have a lot of stories from my grandmother, who's no longer with us, and it was deep, and that's why she came north. I'll give it to you, the floor.
Hey. It's interesting. I can't say that in my youth that I had any experience with the quote black church, even though I grew up in Harlem, because my mom sent me to a Catholic school, so I
Same
got
here.
the white version of life, and that was an interesting time. But what I can tell you is that my mom knew Malcolm. He came to the house, and I thought the man was strange. I mean, first of all, he was mesmerizing when you were in his presence. But he didn't eat pork. My mom had some pork chops. She said, I don't eat swine. Boy, what is wrong with you?
That's right. All black
You know?
people eat pork.
Yeah. But it was a very, very during the early '50s. It's still, even though Brown versus Board of Education, which desegregated the schools, 55. It took years and years for that law to really penetrate into some communities, and some still have not done it to this very day. And it was a myth that only areas where the segregation occurred was in the South,
Correct.
because it was very segregated up north. And one of the last communities, a little known fact, to desegregate was Boston.
Yes.
Okay? So we've had some interesting times, and what people don't know, and I mean this, I say this almost in jest, is that the NAACP really started to push forward some of the civil rights issues of the day. But there was a minister in Harlem whose name was Adam Clayton Powell.
Abyssinian.
It's Abyssinian Baptist Church. And what I found interesting is that he was so energetic about pushing for these civil rights that the people in Harlem renamed the NAACP. Instead of it being the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, was Never Annoy Adam Clayton Powell, because the brother was just pushing for things. So it was an interesting time to grow up. It was in my lifetime when I had to sit in the back of a bus. It was in my lifetime that I couldn't sit in the same restaurants as other white folks. So I experienced that. I didn't have officer friendly in my neighborhood. Didn't happen that way. You saw the cops and you went in the other direction if you were smart, because you may fit the description. So it's, I have a different view of life than most people.
Do you think that's really changed much now?
Oh yeah, absolutely, it's changed. We have a black person in the White House now. Again. We've had one black Supreme Court justice.
But we still have black men being murdered on the
See,
streets.
no one
for
wanted to
nothing.
respond to my one black.
Uncle Clarence?
Nah, we had Thurgood,
Thurgood
Oh, okay, thank you.
and that was it.
That was it?
That's it.
Right.
Oh,
I don't give credence to Clarence Thomas.
Right.
I'm sorry.
okay.
Got you.
I think I said enough so I don't get myself in too much trouble.
Okay.
No. I mean, well, the whole point is it's a teaching platform. It's a teaching platform. And part of the problem with our community, I feel, is ignorance. And not ignorance in terms of stupidity, but ignorance because the information just is not there. It's not being shared. People are not learning it to be able to apply it so that they can move forward in knowledge and do better for themselves, as opposed to sitting in ignorance and just replaying history over and over again, because I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Just like the Black History Month this month.
Mm-hmm.
I posted a lot of Black History stories on my page. Just people that you wouldn't normally think about. The racers, the car racers that were black, first black, and the horse racers. And
Okay.
so, and then I did one particular woman, Phyllis Wheatley, who was the first published poet. And she was actually a slave brought from Africa, sold to a family by the name of Wheatley in Boston. So the ignorance is there. People are telling me, oh, I'm black all year. Duh. Or Black History Month is, Black History. We're black all the time. So why is it that Black History? Well, take this opportunity
To
that
learn,
we share
fool.
Right.
to learn and read up on your people, because there's people we don't know about.
Right.
There's so many, I think, pieces to that. I agree in most part, and I come just a little bit after my dear brother. So I'm the product of the '60s and the '70s. Also sent to Catholic school, both grammar and high school. First day in high school, 1,700 student population, 5 black. You know.
What school was that?
Nazareth.
I did 200, 10
Okay.
black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but the racial tones and the expletives. First day I got kicked out of school because I'm a project boy and he made a mistake. You know.
Yeah.
But you fast forward, I'm in the military and I'm sent to Biloxi, Mississippi,
Oh,
from Brooklyn, New York, and this is the early '70s. They're saying, "Well, you can't go out. Blacks cannot go out of this gate."
yeah.
You know, so the first thing I want to do is go
I'm
out
going
the
out that
gate.
gate.
You know, so those racial prejudices, people, in your face, still calling you boy, not like you my boy either.
Right, right.
And so I think those things are still, even here, we have an elected public official, and I can't repeat what this sister was called, but she was called the black part of a female anatomy, So a lot of that has not changed.
Yep.
You alluded to our young black men, and sometimes not so young, but predominantly our young black men who, as you mentioned earlier, fit the profile. What is it? He's black. Doesn't matter that the suspect was 6'2" and you're 5'1". So we still have to deal with it. But I think educating ourselves is a great way to combat some of that ignorance. And I think the church is a good place to start to train and educate our young people, also to get rid of some of the negative information that is being promulgated among our young people, like education doesn't really matter, it's the white man's education, and some of those misnomers that are being populated, particularly in our inner cities. I think that we have to become involved. And you asked, was there a mandate? I'm sure Pastor will certainly agree. Jesus said, I was hungry.
Yeah.
You didn't feed me. I was clothing. I was naked. You didn't clothe me. I was incarcerated or imprisoned. You didn't visit me. I think there's a great mandate for the church to address not just the spiritual needs of its community, but also the physical needs of the community. And I think in this day and time, we're dealing with a very quiet subject, a very hidden subject, because it's been anathema or taboo to the black community, and that's mental health and mental illness. And this COVID monster has really added so much to some of those mental depression and explosive anger issues, domestic violence issues, both male and female. And I think it's really imperative that we don't just say we're going to preach to you on Sunday, but that we do need to have relationships with not just our local congregation, but also areas where we can see that things are happening and endeavor to address them. Our food pantry Has just been an excellent way to make contact with people, because even in that 3 to 5 minute exchange, I've had people say, "Can you pray for me? Can I talk to you? Can I
I was
give you
gonna
a
ask you that
call?"
question.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity at that point in time. They're not members of our ministry, but it's an immediate opportunity to impact someone's life for better.
Are
Literally.
people,
Yeah.
are people feeling more comfortable with churches now that they're showing up, even if it's just for food? Like comfortable, like asking you for prayer. Like on a normal, people don't say that.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, we've had a very good response from the community, and trust me when I tell you, when people are hungry, it transcends,
Yeah.
the color line.
Yeah.
When people have immediate needs, I don't have enough Pampers for my baby. It transcends, the color line. And so, yes, it has been a place where I think the onus still is on the church to make them feel like this is a place of refuge, or this
Right.
is a place of comfort for people to come to.
Yeah. We've had a few surprise faces when we show up as well.
Do you find that your role in the community and in your church home, do you find that it's become harder because, like you said, mental health before wasn't something that was really talked about in our black communities, and this is to, all of you, because we all kind of deal with it, but do you find that you're having to add programming into your ministry, to address that? And if so, how do you begin to, say, hey, we have this available to you? How do you begin to address, your congregation, or even, like you said, those that are coming in just for food, and they're saying, I'm 2 seconds from losing it.
Mhm.
How have you addressed that?
I have answers, but
Let's
we
hear
have-
from
we have-
Pastor.
we have-
There you go.
We have Pastor King. So.
I was feeling left out, but no, I was, but
I was gonna get to you. I said
no,
I was gonna grab the
I
table.
was taking, no, I was taking in the information, man. I was just like taking in that good volume of information. But I would say this about the mental health. What happens? Mental health goes back in there. We can all check our family histories. That hear no evil, speak no evil, stuff like that. That's where it comes back in from. That comes back in. Your Uncle Willie crazy. You don't speak about it. You don't talk about it. You know Grandpa over there drinking that vodka because why he's depressed because of war issue, and we got PSD, but nobody wants to talk about it. We sweep everything up under the rug. But it's time for us to throw that rug out, bring all that stuff, because I'm tired of going over people's houses tripping because they got lumpy rugs. Because lumpy rugs is we sweeping everything up underneath there.
Right.
And if grandma's house got big lumps, uncle and them house got big lumps because we're sweeping everything up underneath there. For my church, I have set up something for this year going into 2022 is I'm starting an NA and AA in my church. I'm talking about it's called rap sessions where people can come and talk, and we're going to have the subscribe of it will be Christian based faith. But we want to talk about how do we handle stressful situations? How do we de-escalate stressful situations? Not only just at home, but in relationships. Because you can be stressed out because you may know something about going on with your spouse, but you ain't saying nothing. But you full of tension and you're full of this, and you want to say something, but you're afraid that this joker may flip out because you know he got a certain propensity to do something. So you're stressed out. We got to realize that not only do we have to deal with mental illness, but we got to deal with spiritual illness with people.
True that.
And if we don't talk to the spiritual part, because that's what we have to deal with. And I'm a pastor, so I'm about to go scripture on you. In Mark chapter 5, where the Bible, Jesus came off the boat, the Bible says that when Jesus met, he met a man that was there, that was a lunatic. And while he was there, what happened? He was possessed with all these spirits. Now I'm gonna go ahead and further tell the story. Now the man himself, Jesus never asked the man, yo, I know you running around here naked and screaming, but he said, what is your name? He didn't ask the man his name to know the man's name, but he wanted to know the demonic spirit that was in his name. Because he said, I can't help you until I get what's in you out.
Wow.
So what happens is if we don't deal with people's spiritual needs first, you cannot deal with their physical needs. Because why? Because we are all, man is made up of three things. We are dirt, we are spiritual, and we are, and then what happens when we deal with these three things, and God is three in one, we are man, we have a shell, which is dirt. We are spiritual beings first, but we possess a soul. But what controls the soul and what controls that body is the spirit. And that's what we have to deal with. What spirit are we dealing with? Because everybody can look. And Charece, she know I had an Uncle Willie, my mother's brother. And they said he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But he wasn't crazy. What happened was he dealt with the spirit because somebody drugged him as a child. And no one ever in my family ever dealt with the spirit that was in him. And because nobody dealt with that issue of that spirit that was in him, that began to overtake his life to where he began to walk around in the streets and talk to himself. And I'm finding out now, I wish I knew then what I know now, that we need to first deal with people spiritually, just like Jesus did, because when Jesus said to him, what is your name? He said, my name is Legion. We are many. And when he told him, okay, you come out of him. When he came out of him, now the man became not a lunatic, but the man became himself. He became who God created him to be. And that was a teaching lesson, not only for the man, but for the disciples, due to the fact that because of this one thing. He said, in order for you to deal with people in church, out of church, or around the neighborhood, deal with their spiritual issues first. So when they come to the church and they say, pray for me, do not take it lightly when they're standing in the soup line. Do not take it lightly, because when you may leave, that suicide spirit may be in there. And says, I'm going to kill and blow my head off. I work with the officers in Riverside. And you never know that New Jersey is the number one place where a lot of cops eat their gun. It's a high risk. Because why? People don't know how to deal with the mentalness. Your mind, before you can do anything else, the first thing the devil's going to mess with is your mind. He's going to talk to your mind. He's going to tell you what to do. And all of us know, everybody know, you've been in a room one day and you know that person that's crazy. That's all spiritual. He deals with the mind. Everybody know you think of you can think of 5 people. You know, Ray, Bam Bam, Sister Say, Sister this. You know they all crazy because why? They deal with different. Everybody, I say everybody at that table and me in my house, we all got a spiritual demon that we deal with.
So
But
let me.
I really got to
I'm
push
sorry.
back on one thing. I'm sorry.
Good.
I have a problem with the sequencing that you're talking about feeding their spirit first. If you have somebody who's not a believer coming to you for food, and you're going to deal with the spiritual issue first, you're going to lose them, in my opinion. I think you meet people where they are. Cool your jets. I think you got to meet people where they are. Then you may be able to minister them spiritually, but you got to meet their physical need first, I think, in my opinion. Go ahead, sir.
No. That's what I mean. I was talking about when they came to you about prayer. When they're asking you for that. That's what I'm talking about. Because that's the time that we deal with that situation, that spiritual needs. Because you can feed. I'll feed you in a minute. Because I will never push something off on you that you don't want. Jesus never even did that with anybody.
Okay.
And that's the number one thing that we deal with. So I was just kind of piggybacking off what you said about you standing in line and asking for the prayer.
There's a thing,
I apologize. I didn't clarify that. I apologize.
Pastor, and there's a thing
Thank you.
that we encounter. I also am a chaplain for New York City Transit, and we meet people at their worst. Normally, there's been a suicide or someone has been run over by a train or some of the worst scenarios, and so we're right with the first people there. And as you say, the presence means a lot in dealing with their emotional. Again, like you mentioned, the trichotomy of man with spirit, soul, and body, and we have to, even as Christ did, deal with all aspects of it. I'm also in the unique position being a bishop in the Lord's church because I don't just pastor the church, I pastor pastors. You know, and as a result of that, you begin to see that some of the stressors that they deal with in dealing with Bebe and Nene and all of them,
Ray.
because they don't often have an outlet. But I think that I preached a message a long time ago called "You Got to Hook 'em to Cook 'em." It's as simple as that, and I think you would agree that. And this is, I think, what you're alluding to also, Vincent, is that first thing you have to do is, even in my degree is in Christian counseling. First thing you have to do is establish that kind of rapport, relationally with them. Then you can pour into them. So again, with loving kindness have I drawn you, which is what the scripture tells us. We draw them with loving kindness, and then we can work with them. But very good point Pastor King makes is particularly as in Christian leadership, talking pastors and those who are in ministry positions, they and you have to have what they call a spirit of discernment.
Yes.
Because some things are just chemical, biological
Right.
imbalances. But then there are a lot of times when they are not,
Right.
and we have to be able to differentiate, what's going on.
Right.
Because if I want to just give you some Zoloft and tell you to go somewhere and sit in the corner and just chill, that may not be what your
you need.
issue is, And as Pastor King alluded, sometimes doors have been opened where things have been entered in, even from, and I don't want to get too far there, but even in playing with your Ouija board and all of those kind of things, and you start to engage in things that you have no idea that you're engaging in, but they
Yes.
do affect you spiritually, and so it becomes the job or the mandate of that pastor, that man of God or woman of God, when you're dealing with people in those emotional situations, to kind of have a good prayer relationship, certainly, and being able to distinguish or discern, even better than discern what am I dealing with, and from there you can be led how to minister, on what to say and how to minister, or even just be as bold as Jesus, because Mark's gospel in the 16th chapter tells us you can lay hands on, and they will come out. So, but you still have to know what it is that you're dealing, what you're dealing with.
And that takes takes some time to learn that discernment, because I'm learning it at my age now. I didn't have it prior to, and it costs you.
No, I just I've seen too many times where we have people who, well, let me rephrase it, where we have pastors, and I'm very blessed to hear both of you say that you will minister to an entire community, because some pastors say they have very insular in their perspective. If you're in my congregation, I will give you all the help you
Right,
need.
right.
If you're not in my congregation, go someplace else.
Absolutely.
So I'm really glad to hear the two of you say that that's not the MO of how you are operating.
It's my house and my house only.
Absolutely.
My house and my house only. How do you deal with the fear of your community, of what's actually happening in our community? Like, how do you
During the pandemic, or just
I
in
mean,
general?
just
People being shot.
yes, people
Right.
being shot. I mean, because last year we were part of, a march
Black
that we
Lives
put
Matter.
together, right? With Black Lives Matter and everything, and what was your first thought? What was the first thing that came to your mind that you felt you needed to do in order to address and calm the fears of the people in the Black community who were like, okay, who's gonna help us?
Or make aware of the non-black people in the community? Like where we live,
Okay.
they're
The
they're
sensitivity
not in,
levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
didn't say the word right, but yes. Thank you, Bishop. Thank you so much. She
I
looking at
was
me like
I
I'm
was just a
crazy.
little
She looking at me like I'm
confused,
crazy.
that's all.
I know I talk crazy sometimes, but I'm not crazy.
Okay.
But we have a pastor here that I think I heard say that he is a chaplain for
Police.
the Riverside Police.
Right.
I'd love to know how you deal with your church people who may be African American, and then you deal with the police assisting them. That to me is a dichotomy that's very hard for me to understand.
Right.
But again, understand where I come from. I'm old and I see the world differently.
But you hit the nail on the head of kind of where I was going. The question I was
Oh,
kind of
sorry.
so Theodore,
I,
Pastor Theodore.
you family, you call me that. My name is Ted. But
Right. There you go.
but this is what it is. I'm glad you brought that up because the police department that I work with, I would say work together with. I'm telling you that one, I'm the first chaplain and the first African American chaplain in a city that has about 12,000 people that lives in there, but 75% is Caucasian. So when you look at that, that's so you can tell you what the setup is of the police department where they have, but the chief of the police department there is asking if you know anybody that is African American that wants to join anybody I know that's not bring him. He wants to make it diverse as much as possible. He literally handpicked me and told me, I want you to be a part of the police department. I want you to do this. But how to bring them together is we always sit and talk. We sit and talk. We eat. And I try to get to know them, and they try to get to know me because I try to get to know how they're thinking and how I'm thinking. I tell them when I'm talking with them, this is how African Americans feel when they see a police officer because this is what's told in the home. And everybody had to have that talk with their child, or you had to talk with yourself. Okay, when you see a cop, what you do? Put your hand, make sure your hands are on the steering wheel. Ask for permission to do anything. Or let them know where it is, and you tell them to get it. I
So you
ask
play
them,
devil's advocate.
can you? Yeah. Well, I try to be a liaison between the two because my thing is, I wanted them before the pandemic hit it. Y'all come to my church. I would literally set aside for my Bible study for y'all to come and talk to my congregants and anybody that's there and says what y'all expect from us and what we should be expecting from you guys. But
What was the level of acceptance of you doing that?
it was
Like,
all
how-
over to it. Not only the Riverside, but there was the city council from the city next to me wanted to be a part of that. Because when the Floyd incident happened, we did a march. City council from a neighboring city, both of the mayors, the chief, they called me in and said, we want to have, they called for the march
Okay.
and said, we're going to give you all the protection and everything we need to have some. And this was shocking to me for that city. 12,000 people, 10,000 mostly Caucasians in there. They all participated in the march, cooked barbecues on the side as we began to march. But the acceptance was, we're not tolerating no more this division of whites over here, blacks over there. They want to know my input.
So,
What's the biggest fear?
Being shot.
so
Thank you.
Bishop's gonna.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can piggyback on that because when I personally called Chief Lyons, there was no resistance. There were about 6 pastors that sat in on that meeting. We expressed, utter outrage, actually, at the actions of Floyd and also just the inability of police departments across the country to just say this was wrong. We were fortunate in this particular arena, and I take my hat off to her. She didn't stutter. She was not. She didn't equivocate. She came straight to the point and said, this is unacceptable. They have some trainings that they have modified, not through words only, but I've been given access and others have been given access to go into and see what they've done and what changes they've made. And when we decided that there would be marches, they cleared spaces for us. They made sure that traffic was, diverted so that no one would get hurt. So in this particular case, in this particular region, I don't think we have that same set of circumstances. But as Vincent said, the biggest fear has not changed because, in Rochester just a couple of months ago, you see babies being pepper sprayed with, and people with mental illness being hooded and ultimately dying. So, it's hard. It's hard as a pastor to just always preach forgiveness. We know ultimately that is the case. But we also have to be real with like our children. As you stated, there's no other race of people that I've run across, and I've been privy to be amongst so many that tell their kids, put your hands at 10 and 2.
That's right.
Roll down your windows, turn on your lights, all the rest of that. Don't, yes sir, no sir, and I think that hasn't really changed because the dynamics of police interactions, and this is coming from a family of law enforcement, let me just say that, hasn't changed, and although every time we see something like a George Floyd and all of those, my brother was a chief of police, that family, that's Secret Service, everyone explodes with anger, but it has to filter in, and I don't think we're at that point in time yet where we
Not
can
at
just
all.
safely say, to our young people, even to any of us, that it's just okay, because it isn't okay, and I think that's one fight that we cannot
Back
give
down
up
from.
on.
That's
We just
right.
have to continually press and press, and even Latita James out of New York just yesterday, or the day before yesterday, she decried this, what do they call it, the grand jury process, because we don't know what goes on. What seems to be black and white ends up being a whole nother color when you go into the grand jury and present them, and then they come out with a verdict to not to indict. So there's still work. There's still work to be done.
Do you find your job is getting harder to to be involved in the community, to take that, basically be the front line when something happens? Do you find it's getting harder for you because you're continuously fighting the same fight over and over again? Or do you think that the changes you're fighting for are actually happening? That people are understanding what it is you're trying to get them to understand about.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a Kafka moment when we were doing the Black Lives Matter march, and we were coming across the bridge, and this like 60-year-old, 70-year-old white lady was saying, "Black Lives Matter."
I wanted to ask if you knew how many black cops we have here.
No, 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 no,
They
no.
got
There's,
one up?
there, there's more than Jerome. I think there's 3 on the force now.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's
But
nice.
we talk about that. There's still that process. I know one of our community leaders, her son, not retired, but military, did his commitment to the military. Went to work, tried to work for Stroud Regional, couldn't work for them. Got picked up like the next day in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that
you
something?
still deal with, I mean, it's a reality. It's not something we say we accept, but we have to continue to work on it and hammer on it, and hopefully start to become more actively engaged, like the brothers and sisters did down in Georgia in particular, and start hammering on it until the voices that need to be heard are heard, and people are in positions, to make the change.
So do you feel like you're making a change with all your involvement?
I pray I am.
Okay. I feel you are.
Thank you.
I watch you.
One of
Careful.
the things I think that's really, really beneficial right now, in an odd sort of way, is that you are no longer limited to just the people that can show up in your sanctuary. Because churches are now broadcasting live, I find that their reach, the one that I particularly watch is Howard John Wesley down in Alexandria, and he's reaching, and any Sunday he's got 8 to 10,000 people. When that sanctuary, I've been there, and if you can hold 800, it's amazing.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's one of the things that I think has been a benefit to this pandemic, that churches have an outreach now that they did not have before. And I'd love to know, Pastor King, do you broadcast any of your services live?
Yes, I started,
See?
and and
Absolutely.
it grew.
Yeah.
That's like this show. We growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, all right, all
Thank you,
right.
Charece.
That was an unsolicited testimony.
I just had to do it. I love her.
But I think that's one of the best things that's really come out of this pandemic is the outreach that a lot of churches have had that have transcended just their sanctuary.
Right. Had
And
to make
also,
the
can I
choice.
piggyback off of that too and say it also allows people to make your church aware of where they can go somewhere if they need help
Right.
in every area of their life, because a lot of people don't know churches are in certain communities because the the church don't go out beside the four walls.
That's correct.
But now they say, "Oh, you can help me meet a need," and that's where our church has opened up. People now drop off stuff at the church. Well, I know because we had church outside, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna piggyback off of that some more. When we had church outside, we had people literally coming around the corner, sitting on the corner, didn't want to come in the parking lot, but sit on the corner and did this one thing. They gave offerings. They stopped by now and drop off food, everything. They said, we know that y'all giving out, not only just word, but
Right.
giving out in certain things. So now they're just, people drop off stuff.
Yeah.
So COVID has done something that the church has never done, had to do before. It forced them out the walls
Right.
and now has made them to go on the air.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. I'm 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 live on Facebook. I can't say what I want to say. My
Come on out
congregants are
those
listening.
walls.
All right. Well, Pastor, I thank you for that. I just have one last question for you, Ted.
Uh-oh.
Okay. In becoming a pastor, Bishop is, you've been, how long have you been in ministry?
Bishoping.
Long
Okay,
time.
right.
Oh, I'm not. This is my 13th year in the bishopric.
Okay. So, at minimum, 13 years. Okay. At minimum, 13 years. But you being a new pastor, when you took on the opportunity to be a shepherd for your flock, what was your vision for how you would address your community, get involved in your community, have them follow you, and convince them that you were going to make a difference in their lives?
I just got one word, and this was the one word that I got riding because from Atlantic City to where Riverside is, about an
Mm-hmm.
hour and 15-minute drive from
Right,
where
right.
I was living. And in that hour and 15-minute drive, God gave me one word. He said impact.
Okay.
Impact. He said, you make that the church of impact. Only way you're going to make an impact, you got to go beyond the four walls.
Right, right.
Only way you're going to make an impact is you got to meet the people where they are. And church, I have literally scaled down my church to where it's a come as you are kind of ministry.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to come in your pajamas in your house, and literally, if that's all you have, you can come on in. And my congregation knows that. If you got jeans and your best thing is jeans and a pair of some roughed up Converses, but you got a nice little shirt, come as you are. If you wear that every Sunday, I don't. It's come as you are. Our other thing is we have this thing called meet us in the park.
Mm-hmm.
We literally, and I told my church now since we got equipment to go outside, we're going to have service in the park and we're going to feed the people in the park while we're sitting there doing these things. Because why? You have to meet the need of the people, not only just in preaching, not only just in singing, but in food. And just say, we're just here as a help. If you just want to sit here and talk my ear off, I'm here for you.
There you go.
Gotcha. Well,
Because
thank
people
you.
need to talk.
This is true. This is true. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut the conversation because we are a little bit
Oh,
over our
man.
time. I do want to thank you, Pastor Ted and Bishop Williams, Vincent Ford, for joining us in the cafe tonight. I always love when our kings come into the cafe because it just makes our conversation that much more special. And I always learn something from a man that I didn't think about as a woman, believe it or not. So again, thank you all for sharing this hour with us. Thank everyone who tuned in tonight for sharing this hour with us. Hopefully, we inspired you as we have been inspired. If you should need any assistance, one last thing, one last minute. Bishop, if you could just give the information of your pantry.
Okay, our pantry is located at 130 North 1st Street. We're open on Saturdays between the hours of 3 and 5 p.m. You don't have to come with we're not worried about your government. Just come and we'll take care of you.
Pastor Theodore, if you could just give your information really quickly to your church.
We are 91 Whitaker Street, Riverside, New Jersey, 08075.
And Everybody Eats is located in Stroudsburg. You can contact us by phone at 570-223-4503. We love y'all. Be safe. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for
Good
tuning
night.
in.
Good night. It's good
Thank
meeting
you.
Pastor.
Thanks, Pastor.
Good to hear from you. Thank you. And to the gentleman that's in the tan
Yeah.
suit jacket,
Mr.
you
Ford.
bless me. You bless me, Mr. Ford.
Oh, thank you,
You
sir.
gave that good history.
All right.
A cafe conversation. It's a cafe conversation in the ladies' room. 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 A cafe conversation.